Welcome to Assisting Hands Home Care. My name is Lane Kofed and I'm the President and CEO of Assisting Hands. We welcome you to our family and hope your experience here is filled with joy in your service, hope in your future, and care for those you serve. As you work for Assisting Hands, we hope you will care for others like family. Care for their needs, keep a positive attitude, and smile a lot, laugh a lot, and even cry with them as you serve their daily needs. At Assisting Hands, you are part of a large family. We have care offices throughout the United States and will continue to expand internationally. So please know that you are family and that you represent a great company. At Assisting Hands, we want you to feel a part of our team and hope that you enjoy your training and the care that you will provide. Welcome to Assisting Hands.
All right, I'm glad to have you all here today. I want to take a minute to welcome all of you and to thank all of you for coming to Assisting Hands. We're going to take a few minutes to just talk about what's going to happen today and just to talk about Assisting Hands and a little bit of our background. First of all, I want you all to know that we have chosen all of you based on your experience, your background, your professionalism, and personality. So it's very important for all of you to know that you've been chosen to attend this orientation today for that very reason. We screen many, many applicants, and we have chosen you out of all those applicants. So I want you to know that, and I want you to know that we're glad to have you here today. So the purpose of today's training is to get you familiar with Assisting Hands and to also provide you with an Assisting Hands handbook. Let me tell you a little bit about Assisting Hands. Assisting Hands each office is privately owned and operated, but we're part of a larger corporation. Assisting Hands is a nationwide corporation. We have 14 different states, and we're also located in Canada currently. We continue to grow, and we're very excited about that. Now, let's go ahead and take out our handbooks out of your folder and talk about the handbook. The purpose of the handbook today is to be used as a reference. Okay, so when you go home, I don't want you to throw this handbook away. I want you to keep it, okay? Even if you stick it in a drawer, I want you to keep it so that you can look back at the handbook when you have a question that you need answered. Now, you can always call us, of course, but it's good to have the handbook so you can look and find an answer quickly. I want you to take notes in the handbook. I want you to use a highlighter and highlight things in the handbook as we go through them today. And most importantly, I want you to ask questions. Don't wait to the end of the program to ask a question. If you have one, go ahead and ask. The goal of the training today is to help you feel confident to care for our clients and to improve your understanding of our clients' needs, but also to improve your overall understanding of our services. Now, most of you are already trained CNAs or HHAs. Some of you may be homemaker companions. So you know how to be a caregiver. But what's important for you to understand today is how we do things at Assisting Hands, what our policies and procedures are. So let's start by talking about our mission statement. You'll find in your handbook our mission statement, and it is to provide exceptional home care that enriches the lives of our clients and provides peace of mind for their families. We are committed to helping clients maintain maximum independence. Now, I want you to stop and really think about this mission statement for a second. I want you to understand what we call the big picture, okay? And the big picture is the clients that you're caring for are not just clients. They are somebody else's mother, their father, their brother, maybe their sister, or even an adult child. And that's so important to remember that each client is an individual and has a family just like you. We want you to treat them as you would treat your own loved ones and your family and friends. I also want you to remember 3 things that you need to do when you're working as a caregiver for Assisting Hands. You need to keep your clients happy, healthy, and safe. One time I asked a caregiver, what makes you so successful? What makes you a better caregiver than somebody else? And she told me, well, I do 3 things. I keep my clients happy. I make sure that when I come to the home, I brighten their day. I put a smile on my face, and that they want to see me come back again tomorrow. I make sure that I keep them healthy. I make sure that they eat right, that they take care of their personal care needs, and that they take their medications. And then the last thing that I do is I always make sure that they're safe, their environment's safe, and I try to prevent falls the best that I can. So she did those 3 things, and this caregiver is one of our top-notch caregivers, and she's asked back time and time again into families' homes. So if you remember nothing else today, remember that your number 1 priority is to keep our clients happy, healthy, and safe. All right, moving on to our vision statement. The vision statement of each office is to be the agency of choice for clients within our community. In the home care industry, there's a lot of competition. In each town, there's many companies that do the same thing that we do. But of course, Assisting Hands wants to do the best that they can for the clients that they service. We want to be the agency of choice for our clients. We want to be the one that leaders in our community call to take care of their patients. We want to be that agency of choice. Our goals and objectives are to assist each client to achieve maximum comfort, security, dignity, independence, and privacy in the home, to provide highly individualized and compassionate care to our clients, and to provide an environment for our staff that will stimulate growth, knowledge, and expertise. So we are not just only concerned for our clients, but also for our caregivers. We want to make sure that you are happy so that your clients are happy, and vice versa. Our code of ethics is to provide home care services honestly, with integrity, and in compliance with our state agency. We strive to maintain the highest standards of professional, business, and personal ethics. We expect all of you to abide by this code. Assisting Hands is a licensed agency, and we are bound by certain laws and regulations. That's the reason why we have the policies and procedures that we do, and why we expect all of you to follow those policies and procedures. If you choose to go outside of those policies and procedures, not only do you jeopardize your own position, but you jeopardize the agency's license. So it's very, very important that you understand that. You may even jeopardize your client's safety. At some point, your agency may be visited by a state organization or an accrediting company. During that time, the surveyor will be examining all aspects of the agency, including human resources, management, client services, documentation, environment of care, information management, infection control, and several other areas related to the agency. During survey time, what we expect of you, again, is to follow the policies and procedures that we are explaining here today. And just to do your job. As long as you're doing your job and following the policies and procedures, you have nothing to fear. All right, I'd like to take a minute to talk about the organizational chart. You will find your organizational chart in the handbook provided by your office. Now, each office has an operator or president, an administrator, client care coordinators, sometimes a human resource director, and then those that provide the care to your clients. Oftentimes I say that the client should actually be at the top of that organizational chart because they are the ones that are the most important and the ones that we are all working to serve. So take a minute to look over your organizational chart in your handbook. Now I'd like to take some time to talk about basic policies and procedures that all of our offices have. And again, you'll find these policies in your handbook. Assisting Hands is an equal opportunity employer, which means we promise to recruit, hire, train, compensate, and promote all persons in all job classifications without regard to race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, national orientation, physical handicap, or veteran status as defined by law. We also evaluate and promote our employees based on equal opportunities. You may find new employment opportunities within your office posted in an employee newsletter or announced in another manner within your office. At Assisting Hands, we understand that recruitment is a big part of our business, not only recruiting caregivers, but also recruiting clients. I'm here to tell you that we encourage all of you to tell your friends and your family members that are in the caregiving business about employment opportunities at Assisting Hands. We are always hiring at Assisting Hands and always looking for new, valuable staff members. I want to talk about preparation to work. Now, all of you had to complete a new employee file in order to just be invited to orientation today, and I know it was a lot of work. I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. But I also want to let you know that it's your responsibility to help us complete that personnel file before you leave today, and to also make sure that you keep all license certifications and any other requirement that your office has up to date so that we may keep you in your position. Now, we will track those dates for you. However, it is your responsibility to track them yourselves. Don't wait for us to come to you to tell you that your CPR is expiring. If you know that your CPR is going to expire, take the initiative to get it renewed and bring a copy of that renewal to your office so they can make a copy and put it in your personnel file. Anybody that has a license or certification that is mandatory for your position and is expired may be suspended from your position until that certification is updated. So it's really important that you remember that and you take responsibility for your certifications. Employees may be asked to attend continuing education classes in your office. Check with your office staff to find out a schedule of meetings and how to attend. Your office hours are listed in your employee manual. You'll find your office hours listed. The office is open Monday through Friday, 8 consecutive hours, except for major holidays or during other special events. If your office is closed, you will be notified in advance and it will be posted on the door. However, there is always somebody on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to assist our employees, and our clients. That person can be reached by calling the main office number anytime, day or night. It's important for you to understand that you are never alone. Even after the office is closed, there's always somebody to assist you. You are part of a team and not alone. I'd like to take a moment to talk about timeliness. Now, showing up to work on time is mandatory. Not only are we depending on you to show up on time, but so are your clients. If you're going to be more than 5 minutes late to your scheduled shift, you must call the office. You must speak to somebody directly. Please do not leave a voicemail. Do not call your client directly. Call the office. Your office staff will at that point notify your client that you will be late. However, do your best to be on time. Be respectful. They're counting on you, and so are we. Now, if you are sick, you must follow our sick policy. If you're not able to attend your regularly scheduled shift due to an illness or an emergency, you must give us at least 4 hours notice. Failure to do so may result in disciplinary action. If you know that you're not going to make your shift more than 4 hours in advance, please let us know. The more time that we have to find a replacement caregiver, the better. You must notify your supervisor directly or administrative staff. Again, don't leave a voice message. Call the main office number and speak to somebody directly. If you're put to voicemail, hang up and call back until you get a person to speak to. Excessive sick calls may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. In certain circumstances, you may be asked to provide a doctor's note before you can return to work. And no-shows are unacceptable and immediate grounds for termination. There should be no reason why you don't know what your schedule is or when your scheduled shifts are. At Assisting Hands, we use a special method of tracking your time at work. We ask that you clock in and clock out to your shifts using the client's home phone. Please do not use your cell phone to do this. You will find directions on how to clock in and clock out of your shift on the back of your name badge when you receive it. You have 5 minutes before your shift and after your shift to clock in. Anything earlier than that or later than that, we will be notified. So make sure that you're clocking in and clocking out within that time frame. If that's not possible, you need to call the office directly. At Assisting Hands, we have a caregiver cell phone usage policy. Caregivers are prohibited from using their personal cell phone during working hours. I understand that most people have a cell phone, but what you need to understand is during working hours, you must keep that cell phone turned off and out of sight when you're with your client. Tell your friends and family you're unavailable to talk during working hours. And in the event of an emergency, if they need to reach you, they can call the office directly and we will get in touch with you. I promise. Do not give your cell phone number out to your clients. Simply state, it's against agency policy for you to give out your number. If they disagree with that, ask them to call the office and we will explain it to them. It's important for your clients to call the office and not your cell phone directly. The dress code is very important. I'd like you to take some time to review the dress code in your handbook. The dress code is mandatory for all caregivers. Failure to abide by the dress code may result in suspension, disciplinary action, or even termination of your position. Some general rules about the dress code are that all caregivers must wear a name badge at all times. That name badge should be visible. All caregivers must have proper hygiene. You must have a neat and tidy appearance. Hair must be clean and combed. Nails must be short and clean. No artificial nails. Please don't wear any heavy perfume or cologne. And jewelry should be kept to a minimum so that it doesn't interfere with the services that you're providing. All tattoos and piercings should be covered. Check with your office to find out exactly what clothing you should wear. As a general rule, all caregivers must wear closed-toed shoes with a heel or a back on them for your safety. You may be asked to wear scrubs or you may be asked to wear street clothes. It depends on your office and depends on the client that you're caring for. However, remember that you are not only representing Assisting Hands, but you are representing yourself. If you look like a professional, you will be treated like a professional, and your clients will respect you. Paychecks are given out bi-weekly. Check with your office to find out when your payday is. Now, you may pick up your paycheck in office or it may be direct deposited. If you would like direct deposit, please check with your office again to find out how to do that. You will be asked to sign an authorization. If anyone other than yourself comes to the office to pick up your paycheck, make sure you call and let us know that they are authorized. We do not release paychecks to anybody that is not authorized. Assisting Hands has a gift, loans, and gratuity policy. The caregiver should not accept payment of any type from your client. That may be in the form of a gift, a loan, a gratuity, no matter how large or small. As a caregiver for Assisting Hands, you are an employee of the agency. We provide you with your paycheck, not your client. If your client offers you a gift, loan, or gratuity, simply state it's against the policy of Assisting Hands to accept this. If the client becomes angry or upset about this, please have them call the office or call the office yourself for assistance. Accepting a gift, loan, or gratuity from your client may result in disciplinary action. Remember, even food is considered a gift. Please be prepared to bring your own food and drink. As a caregiver, you should be prepared to come to your shift with your own food and drinks. You can bring your food and drinks in a small bag. Do not accept or help yourself to the client's food or drinks. Doing so may result in disciplinary action. If a client offers you food or drinks, simply state to them it's against the policy of Assisting Hands. If they have an issue with that, ask them to call the office and we can discuss it. If appropriate, the caregiver can join the client for a meal. Just make sure that you're eating your own food. Assisting Hands has a no smoking policy. This means there is no smoking at the office, no smoking at the client's home, inside or out, no smoking in the client's car, or no smoking in your car with the client in it. There is no distribution or solicitation of non-work related materials of any kind. An employee who fails to abide by this policy is subject to immediate disciplinary action up to and including termination. In simple terms, this means please do not ask your client for donations. Please do not sell other services or goods to your client. Please do not distribute non-work related materials to your clients. In your handbook, you will find that Assisting Hands has a lengthy computer usage policy. As caregivers, you don't have the need to use the computers in office very often. However, if you do, please understand that they are typically connected to a network and there is no privacy. Use the computers appropriately and understand that there is a list of prohibited activities within this policy. Also, it's important to remember that when you're in the client's home, the caregiver should not use the client's computer. The only reason that you may use the computer is if your client asks you to assist them with an activity on the computer. Assisting Hands has a sexual harassment policy. Please refer to your sexual harassment policy in your handbook. If at any time you feel that you are being subjected to harassment, please be sure to document the incident and report it to the administration immediately. You can report it to anyone in the office. Any complaint of sexual harassment will be thoroughly investigated without fear of retaliation. At any point, if you feel that a client is being sexually inappropriate, in many cases this happens with clients with dementia, please understand that that must be reported as well. Each office has a workplace violence and safety program. We have zero tolerance for violence. If at any time you feel like you're in a violent situation, you're being threatened, intimidated, coerced, or someone is physically harming someone else in the home, please report the incident immediately. Get yourself to safety and, if possible, your client as well, and then notify the office. At some point, caregivers may be eligible for benefits depending on your office. Check with your administration and also in your handbook to see what benefits your office offers. Caregivers who use their own vehicle to transport a client or for client services will be reimbursed for the mileage. To receive mileage reimbursement, please make sure to log the number of miles traveled on your notes or as required by your office. Mileage will be reimbursed at the rate determined by your administrator. Mileage to and from work is not reimbursable. However, mileage in between your clients may be considered for reimbursement. Assisting Hands has a lengthy employee discipline policy. Please take the time to carefully review the policy in your handbook. Any infraction of this policy could result in disciplinary action. Some things that I'd like to point out from the discipline policy are these. Don't steal, borrow, or damage client goods. Do not consume drugs or alcohol during working hours. Please don't discuss personal problems with your clients. You are there to brighten their day. Discussing personal problems can do just the opposite. Do not perform personal work while on the job. Take the initiative to find something to do. Do not bring your children to work. Do not bring your pets to work. Do not bring weapons to work. Do not falsify documentation. Do not sleep on the job. And please do not fail to report injury to the client or accident to their property. As a caregiver, if you decide to resign from your position with Assisting Hands, we kindly ask that you give us 2 weeks' notice. In the event that you would like to be removed from a particular shift, we ask that you put that in writing and discuss it with your administrative staff. Giving 2 weeks' notice is a professional thing to do, but more importantly, it allows us time to find a replacement caregiver for your client. As a caregiver, it's important for you to understand that you are going to have a direct impact on our clients' lives. It's important for you to understand that your client may be facing new challenges or new needs. You will determine how satisfied your client is with Assisting Hands and the services that we provide. Keep your client happy, healthy, and safe, and you'll be asked back. To be a successful caregiver, you need to have certain traits. You need a desire to help others, a caring personality, to be a good communicator, to act professionally, to be in good health, be dependable, document correctly, to have received the proper training, to take initiative, and use common sense. At Assisting Hands, our promise to you is to train you well to assist our clients. We promise to do our best to assign you to clients that will benefit from your care and who are appropriate for your level of experience and knowledge. If at any time you are offered a case that you feel is beyond your capabilities, it is very important to let your administrator know ahead of time. Know your limitations and what you can do. As a caregiver, it's important to understand your client's needs. No two clients are alike. Approach each client as an individual on an individual basis. It's important to remember that your client may be adjusting to new circumstances or have new challenges as they age. They may have received a new diagnosis or even suffering from a chronic medical condition. Be aware of your client's culture and understand that how it may affect the care and services that you provide. It's important to be able to communicate with your client. Miscommunication can often occur between different people or different cultures in both verbal and nonverbal ways. Even when people speak the same language, miscommunication can occur. It's important to be aware of your tone and how you present yourself to your client. Miscommunication can also occur through nonverbal ways. Be sensitive to your client's belief about touching. Be respectful and make eye contact when appropriate. Hand gestures may also cause miscommunication. Different signs may mean different things depending on your culture. Be aware of your client's cultural beliefs and their behavior and how it may differ from your own. Respect your client's preferences. If you're uncomfortable in a home because of cultural differences, be open and honest with your agency so adjustments can be made if necessary. Avoid discussing sensitive issues like religion or politics. Listen to your clients but refrain from voicing your own opinions. And avoid discussing your own personal issues. Our caregiver services are listed in your handbook. Our services are centered around ADLs, also known as Activities of Daily Living, and IADLs, Instrumental Activities of Daily Living. I'd like to take a minute to talk about our housekeeping services. We do provide general light housekeeping. However, we do not offer project-type cleaning like window washing or cleaning anything that would require the caregiver to be on a ladder. It's important for the caregiver to focus mainly on the kitchen, the client's bathroom, the client's bedroom, the living room, or any other room of the house that the client uses frequently. The caregiver can vacuum, you can mop, you can certainly do dishes, clean the shower, clean the sink, and things like that. However, we do not offer project-type cleaning. For example, if the client asks you to wash your windows or do anything that would require the caregiver to get on a ladder, we ask that the caregiver does not do that. The caregiver should not do any type of yard work or anything outside of the home. If you're asked to do something and you're not sure whether or not it would be approved, just call the office and ask. Transportation services. Caregivers routinely provide transportation for their clients using either their own vehicle or that of the client's. In the event that the client vehicle is to be used, the caregiver should verify that the office has authorization on file. The caregiver is not to use the client's car without consent of the client or approval from the office. In addition, the caregiver should not drive the client's car if the client is not in the vehicle. And lastly, the caregiver should not drive family members alone without the client in the vehicle. Any questions about transportation or driving a client should be addressed with your office. Now I'd like to take a minute to talk about client referrals and how Assisting Hands obtains their clients. We receive our clients from many different sources of referrals. Physicians, hospitals, case managers, attorneys, private guardians, other home care agencies, friends, family, and even employees of Assisting Hands may refer potential clients. We also advertise in many written forms like the Senior Source Book, Yellow Pages, the newspaper, mailings, on the internet, and some offices may even have an outside marketer. We ask that all caregivers speak positively about Assisting Hands when out in the community. When we're contacted by a potential client, we take the following steps. We gather general information about the client and the services that they're interested in over the phone. At that point, we offer to come out to the client's home for a free consultation. Someone from the administrative staff, maybe even a nurse, will complete this visit. On the visit, we gather additional information regarding the client's medical history, their medications, emergency contacts, advanced directives, and much more. If needed, we may even have a nurse provide an assessment. We're also assessing the safety of the home at this point. We make recommendations for safety and improvements if needed. And lastly, we formulate a care plan and sign the service agreement. We ask the client what type of schedule would they like? How many hours do they want? How many times a week do they want us to visit? We may also ask things like, what type of caregiver would you like? What would make a caregiver a good match for that client? Once the consultation visit is completed, we bring the information back to the office, complete a chart, and enter the information into the computer. At that point, our client care coordinators look for a caregiver that would be a good match for that client. At that point, as a caregiver, you may be offered a case. Once you accept a client assignment, you will be given a copy of the care plan along with other pertinent information about your client. We ask that you follow the care plan. Do not perform any tasks that are not approved on your care plan. If you're asked by a client to do something that is not on your care plan, you can simply state, "I'm sorry, but I cannot do that without prior authorization from the office." At that point, you should call the office and get approval. You need to use your time wisely. Complete the tasks that are assigned on the care plan within this time frame that is allotted. If you cannot complete the tasks that are assigned to you within the time frame, please call the office and let them know that you've been asked to stay longer. At that point, we will get approval from the client for you to stay. If the caregiver is asked to do a task that is not on the care plan, not only is it important to get approval first, but so that the office is alerted to update the care plan. At that point, either the nurse or the administrator will make sure that it is added to the care plan and those care plans are distributed to the caregivers. Remember, you must always get approval from the office for extended hours or additional tasks. Now let's take a minute to talk about scheduling. All scheduling of clients is done through the office. A caregiver should not be working with a client if those hours are not approved by the office. If a client asks you to stay additional hours or to come an additional day, you must call the office. For example, let's say you are with a client and your shift is over, and as you're walking out the door, the client says to you, "I'd really like for you to come tomorrow. I know tomorrow is not your regularly scheduled day, but I could use your help tomorrow." At that point, we advise the caregiver to pick up the phone, call the office, notify us of the client's request, and typically at that point, we'll ask to talk to the client and get their confirmation, and we will add it to your schedule. If you don't take these steps to get approval for additional shifts through the office, a couple things are going to happen. It will not be on the schedule, so you cannot clock in and clock out. And there is the possibility that you will not get paid for your visit because we did not get approval for it. Additionally, you may receive disciplinary action for that. So remember, all scheduling must be approved through the office. Additionally, we ask that you do not switch shifts with other caregivers. For example, let's say you're working on a 24-hour case 7 days a week, and you need a particular day off, and you've asked another caregiver if they could switch a shift with you. That's okay as long as you get approval from the office to do so. We must make the change on the schedule and confirm with the client that it's okay with them. To get a copy of your schedule, talk to your office staff, and there may be the possibility that you can log onto a website to view your schedule. If any changes are made to your schedule by the office, we will always call and notify you. Some offices may even send out reminders the day before your shift. If that's the case, you'll be notified by your office of their policy. There should be no reason why a caregiver does not know what their schedule is. Caregivers are required to request time off from work. All requests for time off must be put in writing and must be given a minimum of 2 weeks' notice. Please check with your office on their particular policy and the form that you should use. Requests for time off will be approved on a first-come, first-served basis. We do our best to accommodate all requests. However, please understand we expect reasonable requests. Understand that if you work with a client regularly, that they may still require care over the holidays, and you may be asked to work a holiday. If you would like to request a particular holiday off, you must get approval from your office. Unapproved time off may result in termination or no guarantee of hours upon the caregiver's return. Consistency of care is our main concern. The caregiver should document the services that they provide on progress notes. Check with your particular office to find when your progress notes are due. Typically, one progress note will be filled out for each client that you service. Notes are used to document the services that you provide and are considered to be a legal document. They must be filled out completely and accurately. Falsification of documentation is illegal. You may be asked to come into the office and complete or correct inaccurate notes. If you make an error on your progress note, it should be designated with a single line through the error and your initials. Do not use whiteout. Do not use a pencil. Progress notes should be documented using a black ink pen. These notes may be used for billing and payroll, but also for reimbursement from long-term care insurance. Progress notes are used to document the services that you provide. If it's not documented, it's considered not done. If needed, progress notes could be used in a court of law. Documentation on your progress notes should match the tasks that are assigned on your care plan. If you are performing tasks outside of your care plan and documenting those tasks, this would be considered incorrect. Remember, you must get approval for additional tasks through your office before performing them and documenting them. Progress notes should be initialed at the end of every shift. When you've completed your work, your client is expecting you to document the services that you provide. Take a few moments, document on your notes, and then ask your client to take a look at it and initial the services that you documented. Notes should be documented at the end of every shift and initialed by your client at the end of every shift before you leave. On the last visit of the week, we ask that you have the client sign at the bottom of the note and also date it. You can drop your progress notes off at the office in person, or you can fax them, or you can even scan and email them. We ask that notes are turned in on a timely manner. Not doing so could result in disciplinary action. Remember, if you don't turn in your notes, you may be holding up billing and even payroll. Check with your office on their policy regarding late notes. In some instances, your pay may be held until your notes are received. If you need help documenting your notes, please make sure you get further training and ask for further assistance. As a caregiver, it's likely that you will encounter many different types of clients and many types of different illnesses. It's important that you're aware of your clients' diagnoses and the signs and symptoms that they may experience. Check your client assessment for more information regarding your client. A list of the most common conditions, diseases, and/or disabilities will be found in your handbook. Some of the most common conditions and disabilities that you may find are dementia, diabetes, respiratory illness such as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, emphysema, congestive heart failure, arthritis, multiple sclerosis, cancer, blindness, hearing loss, mobility loss, weakness, stroke, incontinence, and so on. It's important that the caregiver understand what type of disability or disease process your client has so that you can cue into subtle changes in their condition. If you see that your client is experiencing new symptoms or having new difficulties, it's very important that you contact your office and notify them. A nurse may be asked to go out and visit your client to monitor their condition or, if needed, update their care plan. You are the eyes and ears for Assisting Hands. You are the one in the home with the client, and it is likely that you will be the first one to notice a change in condition with your client. Their family is counting on you to report any changes in condition. If you find that you're with a client that has a particular disease or condition that you are unfamiliar with, ask somebody in your office to explain it to you and to look for the signs and symptoms that they may have. As a caregiver for Assisting Hands, it's very possible that you may be asked to help with a client that has Alzheimer's disease or another related dementia. It's very important that the caregiver receive the proper training when working with a client that has Alzheimer's disease or dementia. You may be required by your office to take additional training if working with a client that has Alzheimer's disease or dementia. They can provide you with different resources and training materials and even hands-on training. When caring for a client that has either Alzheimer's disease or a related dementia, it's very important that the caregiver understand how to take care of that type of client. There are so many different kinds of dementia. In fact, there's over 100. Communication is key when taking care of this type of client. Choose simple words. Avoid baby talk. Minimize distractions. Call the client by name. Allow time for a response. Try not to interrupt. And if the client is struggling for a word, gently provide that word for them. Also, try to frame questions and instructions in a positive manner. When providing personal care for this type of client, plan for the time of day when the client is most agreeable and calm. Respect the fact that bathing can be scary and uncomfortable. Explain step-by-step instructions. Prepare the environment in advance and have all the necessary tools. Be sensitive to temperature. Never leave the client alone in the tub or shower. And if needed, you can always provide a sponge bath if the client is adverse to showers. When dressing a client, try to dress the client at the same time of day every day. Encourage the client to dress him or herself. Allow extra time so there's no pressure to rush. Try to involve the client as much as possible. Allow the client to choose his or her clothes, but provide a limited selection from them to choose from. Arrange the clothes in the order that they will be put on and provide assistance as needed. Elastic waists and Velcro closures minimize struggles with buttons and zippers. When providing eating assistance for a client with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, it's important to create a calm, quiet atmosphere. Provide a limited number of food choices. Serve small portions. Use cups with lids or straws if necessary. If the client struggles with utensils, you could substitute finger foods. Many times, the caregiver can also provide assistance using hand-over-hand technique. If your client struggles with incontinence issues, it's important to encourage the client to use the bathroom frequently. Don't wait for the client to ask. Offer to take them to the bathroom or simply lead the way. Watch for signs and symptoms that the client has to go, such as restlessness or pulling at their clothes. Be ready to respond quickly. When taking the client outside of the home, plan ahead if you're going to be out with the client. Adult diapers or incontinence pads may help. Make sure you bring an extra set of clothing for the client. During the nighttime, it may be helpful to limit liquids and caffeine. If your client experiences sleep problems, set a quiet and peaceful tone in the evening. Dim the lights. You could even play soft music. Develop a bedtime routine or follow the one they have in place. Limit daytime napping. Restrict caffeine, especially late in the day. And use night lights if the client is frightened. If your client suffers from delusions or hallucinations, it's important to avoid arguing with the client. Provide reassurance and comfort. Diversion or distraction are good techniques to use. Try to distract the client with another activity or a subject that they enjoy talking about. Turn off the television if there's a violent or disturbing show on. Sometimes even the news can upset a client. Make sure that your client is safe and does not have access to anything that he or she could use to harm himself with. In some cases, you may find that your client has wandered previously. It's important for the caregiver to remain with the client at all times to avoid having them wander off. You may want to suggest to the family that your client have some type of ID bracelet on or a medical alert. In many counties, there are special programs to help locate a client if they have wandered. The caregiver should not leave a demented client at any time unless they are relieved by another caregiver or a family member. If you're working on a shift and somebody does not arrive to relieve you, call the office for assistance. You must stay with the client until somebody relieves you. It is very important when dealing with a demented client that the caregiver do the best to maintain their typical routine. Your office may be able to provide you with a typical schedule that the client enjoys during the day. The caregiver should not take things personally when working with this type of client. If the client is rude, argumentative, or unkind, it's important that the caregiver know to not take it personally. As a caregiver, if you're struggling to take care of your client that has dementia or Alzheimer's disease, please contact your office and ask for assistance. When working with a client that has diabetes, it's important to understand what diabetes is. Diabetes occurs when your body fails to make enough insulin or doesn't use it properly. Treatment of diabetes is essential and can help to slow the progression of complications like kidney failure, poor circulation, and even blindness. There are two types of diabetes: type 1, which is juvenile onset, and your body does not produce enough insulin. The second type is type 2, which typically onsets later in life, and your body doesn't use the insulin correctly. As a caregiver for a client that has diabetes, it's important to understand the signs and symptoms of high blood sugar or low blood sugar. Your client with diabetes may have a specific diet plan. Typically, that diet is high protein and low sugar. Check with your office to find out if your diabetic client is on a particular diet. Also, it's important to check with your office to find out what their policy is regarding measuring and recording of blood sugars. If your client is experiencing high blood sugar, also known as hyperglycemia, they may exhibit the following symptoms: fatigue, sweet-smelling breath, blurred vision, nausea, loss of appetite, dizziness, confusion, incontinence, or even the feeling of panic. When blood sugars are too low, also known as hypoglycemia, your client may exhibit the following symptoms: headache, trembling, drowsiness, sweating, heart palpitations, nausea, or even a tingling sensation. If your client exhibits any of these symptoms, it's important to call for help immediately. If severe, call 911. High or low blood sugars can lead to loss of consciousness and even seizures. You will be provided with a medication profile for each client that you are assigned to. Be aware of your client's medication regimen, the possible side effects, whether or not your client has missed a dose, if the medication should be taken on an empty stomach or with food, and of course, where the medications are stored. If you have any questions regarding your client's medications, it's essential that you call the office and speak to them. In the event that a caregiver has to call 911, it's essential that you have your care plan on you so that you can provide the emergency personnel with the client's medication profile. In certain circumstances, this could even save their life. Check with your office regarding their policy on the caregiver's role in assisting with medications. As a caregiver, remember, you are the eyes and ears for not only assisting hands, but your client's family. If you see that your client is non-compliant with their medications, or they've missed a dose, or they're out of medications, or anything else that seems unusual regarding their medications, contact the office immediately and notify the proper personnel. As a caregiver, it's likely that you may transport your client to the doctor. If that happens and the doctor prescribes a new medication, please notify the office immediately so we can add that to the client's medication profile. As a caregiver, it's very important that you are aware of your client's advance directives. An advance directive is a written statement completed in advance of a serious illness about how an individual wants their medical decisions to be made. The two most common forms of advance directives are a living will and a durable medical power of attorney. Your client may have designated a power of attorney. This is the person that they have chosen to make decisions regarding their health and medical procedures in the event that they are not capable of doing it for themselves. One type of advance directive is a DNR. DNR stands for Do Not Resuscitate. As a caregiver, be aware whether or not your client has a DNR. If they have a DNR, a copy will be made and it will be made part of the client's file in the office. Also, a copy will be found in the home. Check with your office where the DNR can be found in the home. It varies from state to state. Do not resuscitate means in the event of a life-threatening emergency, emergency personnel will not perform CPR. In many cases, a client may have a DNR if they have a terminal illness or may even be under the care of hospice. In the event that your client has a medical emergency, the caregiver should still call 911 regardless of whether your client has a DNR or not. When the emergency personnel arrives, if your client does have a DNR, make sure that you locate the form and give it to the emergency personnel when they arrive on the scene. Without the actual DNR form, the emergency personnel will have to perform CPR. Find out from your office where on your care plan or assessment you can find out about your client's DNR status. Many of Assisting Hands clients are under the care of hospice. It's important for the caregiver to understand what it means to be under hospice. Hospice is a special concept of care that is designed to provide comfort and support during end-of-life situations. Hospice neither prolongs nor hastens death, but focuses on the management of pain and comfort. Most patients that are under the care of hospice will have a DNR order. The caregiver should be aware if your client is under the care of hospice. Check with your office if you have any questions about hospice care. On your care plan, you will find information regarding your client's meal plan, nutrition, and diet. In many cases, a client may be under a special meal plan. The caregiver may be asked to follow a special diet when preparing meals. Examples of special diets may include clear liquid, full liquid, soft diet, cardiac, stroke diet, diabetic, or even a renal diet. It is not the job of the caregiver to plan the client's diet, but to simply prepare their meals in accordance with this diet. In your caregiver handbook, you will find general information such as a food pyramid and guidelines for making healthy choices, serving sizes, normal caloric intake, types of fat and protein, and what constitutes a serving. Take some time to look over the information in your handbook regarding meal planning and basic nutrition. If your client is on a special diet, the office will discuss that with the caregiver and give them specific guidelines. If your client is on a special diet, make sure that you have a clear understanding of your role in planning and preparing food. As a caregiver for Assisting Hands, only licensed individuals or home health aides are allowed to perform personal care. Part of providing personal care is transferring your client. When transferring your client, it's important that you use these guidelines. Always evaluate the situation and clear the area of obstacles before proceeding. Know your client's limitations as well as your own. If you feel that you're not capable of transferring your client, then don't do it without calling for additional help. Always explain to your client what you're going to do first. Stand close to the client during the transfer. Plant your feet firmly on the ground about shoulder width apart and bend your knees. Never twist your body or hold your breath. Take precautions to protect yourself as well as your client. Use clear direction when transferring your client. Tell your client what you're going to do first before you do it, and encourage their participation. You will be asked to demonstrate transferring using proper technique. Some clients that are non-ambulatory may require additional equipment for transferring. Mechanical devices like a Hoyer lift may be used in the home for transferring a client in and out of bed into a chair or wheelchair. Please make sure you are provided with additional training before accepting a case that involves a Hoyer lift. You will be instructed on how to use the Hoyer lift and will be asked to demonstrate its use. As a caregiver, it's your responsibility to monitor the ongoing safety of your client. If you feel that additional equipment is needed in the home to assist with transferring, please notify your office immediately. The office will make sure that proper equipment is put into place. A gait belt is one tool that is extremely useful when transferring clients. If you feel that your client can benefit from a gait belt, please notify the office immediately. When working with a non-ambulatory client, at some point it may be a requirement to have an additional caregiver in the home. As a caregiver, you may be asked to assist with your client's personal care. It's important to assess the level of assistance that your client needs and only assist to the extent needed. Safety is always our priority. However, it's important to encourage the client to participate in their own personal care. As a caregiver, respect the client's privacy and do your best to maintain their dignity. As trained professionals, you have already received training on toileting, dressing, and bathing. We have provided additional information in your handbook for you to review. I'm going to take a few moments to point out some important things to remember. When toileting a client, there are many different options. For a client that is confined to the bed, a bedpan or urinal may be useful. To help reduce the risk of falling while walking to the bathroom, a portable commode could be used. For incontinent clients, adult briefs or incontinence pads may be used. When toileting your client, be sure to assist them with cleaning themselves after toileting. Be sure your client's skin is dry and use skin barriers if indicated on your care plan. As a caregiver, it is so important to monitor your client's skin integrity, especially in incontinent clients and bedbound clients. If you notice your client has any skin breakdown or has developed a rash, please notify your office immediately. Personal care may include oral hygiene and mouth care. It's extremely important that the client maintain good oral hygiene. The caregiver may be asked to assist with brushing the teeth and using mouthwash. When providing bathing assistance, safety is always first. Make sure that the client has a waterproof shower chair. Only non-slip bath mats should be used. The client should have a grab bar in the shower, as well as a handheld shower head. Determine the level of assistance needed by your client when bathing. Some clients may require that you go into the bathroom with them. Other clients may require that you stand outside of the bathroom. Check your care plan to find out what kind of assistance your client needs. When preparing for bathing assistance, clear the countertops of all breakable items. Make room for towels, lotions, dressings, or powders. Substitute all glass with plastic containers whenever possible. Mop up spills immediately to prevent falls. And most importantly, if asked to wait outside the bathroom, remind the client not to lock the door. When providing showering assistance, it's important to use proper technique. When providing a bed bath, it's important to use proper technique. When providing assistance with nail care, the caregiver should only file the nails, never cut. Cutting of fingernails and toenails is prohibited. Please take extra time to ensure that your client's nails are clean and neat. Take this time to pamper them. In female clients, you can even polish them. You may be asked to provide assistance with shaving in your male clients. Please use an electric razor whenever possible. If there is not an electric razor in the home, be sure to notify your office. When providing hair care, this is another opportunity to pamper your client. In addition to washing their hair, take the time to style it. Never cut or color your client's hair. If requested by your client, please make sure that you contact the office and receive the proper approval. The caregiver should examine the client's skin daily for evidence of skin breakdown or emerging bed sores when providing personal care. Be especially careful if your client is diabetic, has had a stroke, or spends long periods of time in bed. A client who is bedbound or in a wheelchair is at high risk for developing a pressure ulcer. Most pressure sores are reversible if caught early. However, if they are allowed to progress, they can be very difficult to heal. Open sores can become infected and channel germs directly into the bloodstream, which is often fatal. The most common places for skin breakdown to occur is on pressure points such as elbows, tailbone, and heels. Make sure to examine these spots carefully when providing personal care. If your client is known to have a pressure ulcer or sore, you may be asked to reposition your client every 2 hours. Talk with your office to find out more about how to care for this special type of client. It's extremely important to keep the skin dry and clean in these circumstances. Pillows may be utilized to take pressure off of these areas. A home safety evaluation is performed with each client that Assisting Hands services. However, as a caregiver, you are responsible for monitoring the ongoing safety of each client. In the event that you notice an unsafe environment, please notify your office immediately. When monitoring the client's environment for safety, look for a working telephone. Make sure if your client has a DNR that it's easily visible. Electrical cords should be stored properly to avoid falls. The client's home should have a functional smoke alarm and a fire extinguisher that is available. All exits should be free of obstacles, and alternative exits should be available in the event of an emergency. Pathways should be uncluttered. Stairs should be in good repair. Lighting should be adequate, and the temperature and ventilation should be appropriate. Make sure that all medicines are labeled correctly. The bathroom should have grab bars, a shower chair, and non-skid surfaces. The kitchen should be clean and in good repair. If oxygen is used in the home, make sure that there is no smoking. All throw rugs should be picked up and stored away to avoid fall risk, especially with those clients that have a walker. As a caregiver, you need to take responsibility and be accountable for both your safety on the job and your client's safety in their home. Ask yourself, what do I do on the job that could put me at risk? What can I do to reduce that risk? What can I do to reduce the risk of my client falling? If you identify any conditions that you find to be unsafe or even questionable, please notify your office. Fall prevention is an important part of caring for our clients. Fall risk is increased when any of the following exists: history of falls, vision or hearing deficit, age over 65, confusion, impaired judgment, decreased level of cooperation, increased anxiety, difficulty with ambulation that requires an aid such as a cane or a walker, gait, balance, or coordination problems, incontinence or urgency, any cardiovascular or respiratory condition, hypotension, dizziness or lightheadedness, medications which can affect blood pressure or level of consciousness, or even environmental factors can increase the risk of falling. As a caregiver, you are responsible for helping to prevent falls. Our fall prevention program consists of the following: assessing the client for risk of falling, assessing the home to identify potential fall hazards, advising the clients and the family how to reduce the risk of falling, and ongoing monitoring through caregiver services. Unfortunately, we can't prevent all falls, but as a caregiver, you are there to assist in the event of a fall. If your client starts to fall, do not try to stop them. You will likely injure yourself and your client even further. But you should try to gently lower them to the ground. Protect their head if possible from hitting the ground. Once on the ground, assess your client. If there's visible signs of injury or even loss of consciousness, you should call 911 immediately. Do not move the client until you have determined that the client is not seriously injured. In the event that your client is not seriously injured, call Assisting Hands immediately. If you're able to get the client up by yourself, go ahead and do so. Have the client sit in a nearby chair. If you are not able to get your client up by yourself, someone will be sent out to help you. Check with your office on their particular policy on how to handle falls. In the event of a fall, it is extremely important that the caregiver document the event as soon as possible. If the fall happens after business hours, the caregiver should call the on-call supervisor. The safety and the well-being of Assisting Hands clients is of our utmost importance. In the event of an accident or injury, the caregiver must notify the office immediately. In some cases, it may be appropriate to call 911 first. If that's the case, call 911 and as soon as possible, call the office. Incident reports are used to document the following events: falls, bruises, cuts, scrapes, medication errors, for example, missed doses, duplicate doses, or even misplaced medication, suspected drug reactions, reports of missing personal property, angry or abusive clients, or anything unusual or out of the norm. Please review your handbook for more information on incident and accident reporting, and make sure to check with your office regarding their particular policy. In any event, the incident or accident must always be called to assisting hands as soon as possible and documented appropriately. A client may report to the caregiver that they fell when the caregiver wasn't there or an accident happened. That too should be reported to the office immediately and documented on an incident form. The incident form becomes part of the client's chart, and the office is responsible for following their protocol to follow up on the incident. Even unwitnessed falls and accidents need to be reported to the office immediately. For example, if your client says that he or she fell in the middle of the night when no one was present, please check your client over for injury, and regardless if injury is present or not, report it to the office immediately. You will be asked to document that as well on an incident report. Assisting Hands has a comprehensive infection control policy. Our policy includes universal precautions to reduce the transmission of communicable disease. In addition to this, employees will also use proper hand washing techniques. Employees will be properly educated about our infection control policy and will be required to be screened for TB. The infection control program is made up of 3 components: the adoption of the CDC hand washing guidelines, infection surveillance, and staff education relating to infection control. Did you know that hand washing is the #1 way to prevent the spread of infections? It is the single most important thing that a caregiver can do to prevent healthcare acquired infections. Our hand washing guidelines consist of the following. Caregivers should wash their hands before and after having any direct client contact or engaging in any other activities that contaminate the hands. See the list in your handbook of when to wash your hands. You may be observed by your supervisor and possibly a surveyor to monitor the compliance with hand washing. The steps to wash your hands involve the following. Number 1, use warm, running, soapy water. Number 2, rub vigorously for at least 20 seconds, paying special attention to the backs of the hands, the wrists, between the fingers, and under the nails. Number 3, rinse well with running water. 4, dry your hands with a single-use towel. And 5, turn off the faucet using that towel. Now, if you find yourself in a home that does not have liquid soap or does not have paper towels, please notify your office immediately. The caregiver should never use bar soap or a hand or dish towel to dry your hands. In addition to washing your hands, another way to prevent the spread of infections is to use hand sanitizers. If a sink is not readily available, the caregiver should use hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer needs to contain 60 to 90% ethyl alcohol or isopropanol for it to be effective. Hand sanitizer should only be used if the hands are not visibly soiled. Please make sure that your hand sanitizer is not expired. Check the bottle of hand sanitizer for an expiration date before using. When using hand sanitizer, place a nickel-size amount of sanitizer in the palm of your hand. Rub both hands together until the sanitizer has dried. Be sure to distribute the sanitizer evenly on all areas of your hands.
CDC TV presents Health matters.
At the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we are very interested in preventing transmission of disease in our community.
People aren't washing their hands as often as they say they are or as often as they should.
Researchers in London estimate that if everyone routinely washed their hands, 1 million deaths a year could be prevented.
And the germs can live on our hands for quite some time unless we clean them. If we don't clean them and we go and touch something in the meantime, we can spread those germs to other places or other people, and disease can be spread this way.
Animals can carry germs that can make people sick, and these germs can be not only on the animal, but can be in areas where the animals live as well.
When people do regular hand washing, especially with children, that you supervise that hand washing, so you make sure the children are doing it properly and for the length of time that's necessary.
They're coughing and sneezing onto their hands and touching doorknobs. They're using shared objects like pencils or toys. And disease is passed easily from one child to the next.
Try and avoid sneezing into your hand because you just contaminate them and then spread those germs everywhere. Focus on sneezing into your elbow, like this, and then you don't contaminate your hands. Turn on the water, wet your hands, apply a good amount of soap and lather up, and then focus on washing your hands for about 20 seconds, about the time it takes to sing Happy Birthday twice. Focus on washing the front of your hands, the back, in between the fingers, around the nails, and so on. And then rinse everything off. Use something to wipe your hands after that, preferably something disposable like a paper towel, and then use that to turn off the tap as well. If you get a chance, use that to also open the door to the bathroom as you're leaving. The best way to wash your hands is using running water and soap, but sometimes we don't have that available. So think about carrying with you a hand sanitizer. That should have at least 60% alcohol content.
It's important to realize that those agents don't remove soil and other material that might be on your hands. And in that case, you really need to use soap and water.
If you've been touching objects all around you all day long, just assume that your hands are contaminated and make sure before you prepare food, you wash your hands. Before you eat, that you wash your hands.
You can't emphasize hand hygiene enough. Clean hands save lives.
Keeping your hands clean is a very important activity both at home, at school, at work, and in the healthcare setting.
Hand hygiene or hand washing is the single most important thing that you can do to help prevent the spread of infection and to stay healthy and well.
Bloodborne pathogens are infectious materials in the blood that can cause disease in humans. Two well-known bloodborne pathogens are HIV and hepatitis B. As a caregiver for Assisting Hands, you're at minimal risk of being exposed to a bloodborne pathogen. However, the potential is there. Please be aware that Assisting Hands has a bloodborne pathogen program that states you must wear gloves and other personal protective equipment when necessary to protect yourself from potentially infectious materials such as bloodborne pathogens. The most common bloodborne pathogens, as mentioned earlier, HIV and hepatitis B, can be carried in all body fluids except for sweat. These fluids are blood, semen, vaginal secretions, saliva, mucus, urine, and feces. That's why casual contact, such as touching somebody's arm, will not necessarily put you at risk. However, if that individual has a cut on their arm, you could potentially be exposed to a bloodborne pathogen. When providing personal care, a caregiver has the potential to come in contact with any of those body fluids. Even if you're handling soiled clothing or soiled sheets, you need to keep this in mind. The caregiver should wear gloves in this event. The most common entry points for infection are puncture wounds, opening in the skin like cracks around the nail bed, or mucous membranes like the mouth, eyes, and nose. So as a caregiver, remember, you're not only protecting your client, but you're also protecting yourself. Please take precautions and wear gloves and other PPE as needed. So as a caregiver, you should ask yourself, when should I wash my hands? When you arrive on your shift, you should wash your hands. At the end of your shift, you should wash your hands. Before and after eating and drinking or preparing a meal, you should wash your hands. After using the bathroom or assisting your client with toileting, you should wash your hands. After coughing, sneezing, or using a tissue. After petting an animal. After touching money, keys, or doorknobs. After touching any human body parts, you should wash your hands. And some of you may not know this, but you should wash your hands before putting on gloves and after taking off gloves as well. So as a caregiver, ask yourself, when should I wear gloves? You should always wear gloves when providing any type of personal care. When toileting your client, dressing your client, bathing your client, hair care, oral care, handling soiled linens or clothing, handling the trash. When in doubt, you should wear gloves. Protect yourself and your client from infection. OSHA is the regulating body that sets forth the standards regarding bloodborne pathogens. If a caregiver is exposed to a bloodborne pathogen or potentially infectious material, your office has a policy on how to handle that exposure. That exposure will also be reported to OSHA. As a caregiver, to file a complaint, report an emergency, obtain advice or assistance, you can call OSHA toll-free at 1-800-321-OSHA. Caregivers are responsible for reporting communicable infections. Not only is it important for your office to be aware if you have an infection, but also if your client has an active infection. In an effort to reduce the transmission of healthcare-related infections, we will be tracking all clients and caregivers with communicable infections. As a caregiver, if you take your client to the doctor and they are diagnosed with an infection, it is mandatory that you report that to your office. In some instances, it may require that you get additional personal protective equipment. As a caregiver, if you come down with a communicable infection, say for example, chickenpox or even influenza, it's very important that you report that to the office so that we can closely monitor your clients for signs and symptoms of that illness. At the discretion of the administrator, a physician's note may be required for you to return to work. See the list of reportable communicable infections in your policy and procedure manual. As a caregiver for Assisting Hands, you're required to abide by the law of HIPAA. HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act. We are all required to abide by this law. This act addresses how an agency handles PHI, otherwise known as Protected Health Information. As a caregiver, you will receive information regarding your client's name, address, health information, their diagnoses, telephone number, and much more. It is important to keep that information confidential. Keep it in a folder so it's not visible to anyone that may pass by. As a caregiver, you will have your client's PHI, protected health information. PHI includes client identifiers like their name, their address, telephone numbers, diagnoses, treatment, medications, emergency numbers. It is so important that you keep this information confidential. Don't share it with your friends and family. Don't share it with your client's neighbors. Keep that information secure at all times, either on your person or locked behind a door. When you're done with your care plan that contains the PHI, please make sure to dispose of it properly. Do not throw it in a regular trash can. Either shred it at home or bring it into Assisting Hands to be shredded for you. In addition to keeping written information secure, make sure you only speak to individuals about your client that are authorized. Avoid identifying and discussing your clients outside of work. If a neighbor knocks on your client's door and asks, "How are they doing?" simply state to them, "I'm sorry, I'm not authorized to release that information." You can contact their family or the Assisting Hands office if they have further questions. FACTA stands for Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act. Just like HIPAA regulates the handling of a client's personal health information, FACTA regulates the handling of a client's financial information. It was formed to protect consumers from identity theft and fraudulent financial activity. It is a caregiver's responsibility to abide by FACTA and to maintain a client's confidentiality in regards to their financial information. This is extremely important when you're working with a client who may have dementia. Be sure to always secure their financial information. As a caregiver with Assisting Hands, dealing with the senior population, there's the potential that you may witness elder abuse. Elder abuse can take form in many different ways. 3 areas of concern when working with the elderly or otherwise dependent population are abuse, neglect, and exploitation. If you see or you suspect any signs of abuse, signs of neglect, unusual problems, or signs of exploitation, please report the suspicious activity to Assisting Hands immediately. Your administrator will conduct an investigation or report any unlawful acts to the authorities. Your report will remain anonymous, and retaliation is illegal. Signs of abuse may include the following: bruises, rope marks, burns, broken bones, sprains, or comments that somebody is hurting them. Signs of neglect may include the following: dehydration, malnourishment, weight loss, poor hygiene, bed sores, soiled bedding or clothing, or comments from the client that they are not being taken care of. Signs of exploitation may include the following: missing valuables or money, sudden transfers of assets, or comments about being taken advantage of. Again, it's important to remember you must report your suspicions or observations to Assisting Hands immediately. Document it on an incident and accident report. Hazardous materials are defined as those substances which may present a physical or health hazard. As a caregiver for Assisting Hands, you are at minimal risk of being exposed to a hazardous material. However, in the event that you are, you should notify your office immediately. Your office may have material safety data sheets in their office. These are otherwise known as MSDS sheets. These contain pertinent information regarding the contents, hazards associated with, and safe handling practices of hazardous materials. Check with your office to find out what their specific policy is regarding hazardous materials. Assisting Hands provides supervision for their caregivers through supervisory visits in the client home, as well as competency checkoffs in the office. Telephone calls are regularly made to clients to assess for satisfaction. Caregivers for Assisting Hands will be supervised by a field supervisor. Find out who your field supervisor is. Your supervisor may visit you while you're performing tasks in the home. The purpose of a supervisory visit is to assess the competency of the caregiver as well as the satisfaction of the client. We are also checking to make sure that the care is appropriate to the client's needs. Is the care being provided on the assigned day during the assigned time? And lastly, to ensure that the client and the caregiver are well matched. Refer to your handbook and check with your office to find out more about your caregiver supervisory policy. At the end of today's orientation, you will have a probationary period. Please check your handbook and with your office to find out the length of time that serves as your probationary period. During this time, we will continue to work with you to make sure that you understand our policies and procedures and your job responsibilities. After your probationary period, you will be held responsible for following those policies and procedures and being competent in your position. It is your responsibility as well as ours to make sure that you are trained and that you feel confident and successful to do your job. Please be sure to request additional training at any time during your employment with Assisting Hands. I'd like to take a moment to thank you for participating in our orientation program today, and to mention a few things that I want to be sure that you take away from this training. The number one most important thing as a caregiver with Assisting Hands is to keep your client happy, healthy, and safe. Please remember the big picture, that your client is somebody else's family member. It may be their mother, their brother, their sister, or even an adult child. As a caregiver, you should always be professional and take initiative in communicating with the office about your client. Remember, you are the eyes and ears for Assisting Hands. Remember to clock in and clock out to your shifts. Always be in dress code and have your name badge visible. Turn in your paperwork on time and document correctly. Remember, you're not alone. You're part of a team, and we're always here to help you. You can reach a supervisor at any time by calling the main office number 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Remember that all requests for schedule changes must be in writing and must go through the office. If you would like time off, please request that. And lastly, enjoy the people that you care for. As a caregiver for Assisting Hands, I promise you that you will make a difference in somebody's life.